Okay, so this is a generic T-34 video. It works for the T-34-76, T-34-85, or the SU-85. Now that the bottom part is on and hardened, we're going to put the delicate parts of the chassis, some of the delicate parts of the chassis on, and do the rough work of the chassis before putting the delicate parts of the suspension on. So that's the reason why we're kind of going between detailing and then suspension and then back to detailing. So I just wanted to start by putting these pieces on. And if you cut them a little wide, it's kind of a good thing. It's not bad to cut them a little bit extra wide. And you may have already cut these out. That's fine too. Just pull them out of your pile of pieces and get them ready. But these are the two little pieces that were attached to this originally. And you're going to glue those along here. And I would recommend gluing those in first just because they're the most delicate, and so if you can give them the maximum amount of time to dry as possible, it's good. Now you can see these lines aren't lining up. That's fine. This is all just beveled off anyways, so it's just an indicator of that, not really important that they be in exactly the right spot. Plus, I've cut these a little wide, so they shouldn't really be fitting in perfectly. And you may want to put in this piece first before putting these side pieces on. Just because if these ladder-shaped pieces are large or small at all, well, especially if they're small, it kind of makes this piece hard to fit in there. If they're large, obviously it's not going to stop. Then the space for it will be larger than usual. But if they're small, then you can have problems getting this piece in. So I recommend putting it in first. Set these in. And you can go ahead and put this hatch cover on here too if you want. It's not strictly necessary for this next part, but may as well. Glue that again. So set that aside, let it dry, and then when it's totally dry, we put this away. You may want to pull out a brand new scraper blade. This is essentially brand new, and it's very good if you've got a brand new one because it's pretty rough work, and the sharper you are, the less chance that you're going to break stuff. So with the SU-85, it's a little bit tougher to trim these back, bevel these back. With the T-34, you can start from both sides And this is actually the easier side, because what you're doing is you're going to lay the blade flat along the plane of the angle of the side here, and just cut this, bevel this back on that same angle. With the SU-85, you can't start at the front, because there's no room for your blade. So you have to start at the back, and there's a little bit less to judge the plane from. So just be careful and work it slow. Until you can get your blade into the right position. Yeah, the superstructure is just completely in the way. You're not going to be able to use the blade in this direction really at all. So if you hopefully can see, this is now just following that same flat plane of here. And you don't have to get it absolutely perfect. We're just going to use some sandpaper to make it a little bit nicer before we harden it. So don't worry about trying to get it perfect with the blade. You'll fix anything that's crazy in a minute. So again, this is the hardest T-34 to do this to because of the superstructure. So if you're doing the T-34-85, you'll find yourself having an easier time than this. Or the T-34-76. Just try to get it so it looks pretty even. And just follows that plane. And on the back as well, to the rear, I'm just going to follow. Okay, and once you've got it to that point, grab some fine sandpaper. You might even want to remove a small piece because this is delicate work. And just bring them down to the... Really just smoothing them out a little bit. And removing any differences between the side of the hull, because it is just supposed to be that side of the hull, just continuing up further. Alright, now, as a final step before we start back onto the suspension, take a little bit of 2-to-1 glue. Oh, one thing I also should mention, especially for the T-34-85, or especially for the SU-85, but for the T-34s, you definitely want to bevel this forward. And I will actually show you on this drawing one here. Just do your best to bevel it straight forward, and then bevel the other side to match it until they both look fairly similar. And that's sort of optional on the SU-85 because there's not a whole lot of room to get in here. I'm going to try and do it, but it's not always that easy. And you're in danger when you're trying to get that last piece beveled of piercing through the thin material that this superstructure is constructed of. It's just like tracing paper at the bottom and a little bit of that cue card paper. So you have to be really careful when you dig the blade in. Now it is supposed to be beveled like that, but I would view that as optional because it's not easy to get in there. Okay, so now, where's our, there we go. Take your brush and just pre-harden these exposed edges here. And the most vulnerable pieces should be pre-hardened again as well. So these are where your vulnerabilities are. Those ones tend to delaminate and come off all the time. So they're just so small they should be hardened and strengthened quickly before any pressure or even just your fingers are sliding over them while you're working on the underside. It's best to have these strong now. And I think we're ready to continue on the bottom.